Hi, Data Ben here. Today we're going to look at looping through objects in VBA. So we've previously seen how we can do for loops and while loops to loop through data, but you can actually also loop through any object in VBA as well, such as workbooks, worksheets, ranges and charts. These can all be looped through and operations performed on them, saving you lots and lots of time if you have to do the same thing over and over again. You can use VBA instead to automate this activity. So we have three worksheets here, sheet 1 to 3, and if I click on this macro, it will automatically populate the table in all three worksheets. And then if I click on clear data, it will clear the data on all three worksheets. So let's see how this works. So we have some VBA code here, and the first thing we note is that we've declared the variables at the top. So the product range, the value range, the sheet as the worksheet, and the cell, which is also a range. So one thing to note in VBA is that a cell such as A2 is in memory the same as a range of cells, so A2 to C10 for example. So one cell or many cells is still stored as a range in memory. And all of these are objects. So we're using the range object and the worksheet object. And we've declared one variable here as an object just to demonstrate that the code still runs, and that at runtime it will actually, VBA will see this is declared as an object, see where we're trying to assign this value to memory, and convert it or upgrade it really to from an object to a range. So let's look at the first loop. So we have the first loop here for each sheet, which is what we've declared here, in active workbook.sheets. So we're saying for each worksheet in the active workbook, in all the worksheets, next sheet. So this will actually start to loop through the worksheets. So let's create a breakpoint and click play on the data here, on the macro, and you can see it's paused at the first line. So it's actually now, we've got our locals window here. We can see there's nothing in memory for everything we've declared yet. But if we move one line forward, so F8 on PC and Command Shift and I on Mac, you'll see that the sheet is assigned to memory and it's going to be the first sheet. So expect if I expand this tree to see sheet 1 here, which we do, codename sheet 1. And first thing we do is select the sheet. This is the same as left clicking on the sheet yourself. And then we're actually going to set the product range. This is the product 1 to 10 list that we want to create. We want that to be populated in the range A2 to A11. So that's what we say there. And this comes to our second loop. Now we're saying for each cell in the in product range, which is range A2 to A11, we want the text product, and the cell, which is A2 at this first loop, the row of the cell, so this would actually return 2, -1. So this will return, concatenate together, product 1. So let's advance F8 and Control Shift I forward once to see if that's worked, which it has. We have product 1 in cell A2 here. So let's have that continue up until the next loop. So I'm going to create a new breakpoint here and then press play again so it finishes the loop of the products. And we can check there that yes, all the products have been populated. Now we're going to do something a bit more in this second column. So we've set the value range as B2 to B11. And in this value range, we're going to create a random number to 2 decimal places. And we're going to apply the number format of pounds to 2 decimal places here as well. So if I continue with F8 here and continue down the first line, what it's done is it's used this VBA function, random, RND, which returns a number between 0 and 1 So it would return a number between 0 and 1 to many decimal places. So it could be 0.343, etc. So we actually want to multiply it by 1,000. So we get, in this case, we want a number between 0 and 1,000. And then this dot number format parameter assigns the formatting onto the cell. So we can see there it's picked randomly this number 771.60. And so let's continue that loop as well by pressing play. I'll take off these other break points. And we're going to press play now, and then it's going to go to the next sheet. So this is completed the first sheet. So we go, okay, yeah, that's great. We've got to populate data, but nothing yet in any of these worksheets. So now it's going to say next sheet. And when we do this, it will move on to sheet 2. So if we look in the locals window again, which is a great way to keep track of where you are and great for debugging, we can see we've moved on to sheet 2. So let's assume that the loops are going to continue. And so I'm going to take off all the breakpoints and then press play for the macro to finish. And then I'm going to go back to the Excel window, and I can check here that yes, indeed, all of the tables have been populated. So that's worked correctly. So I have another small macro which clears the data. So we can have a look at that, which does very similar, very short, and is simply this block of data block here, which is for each sheet in active workbook.sheets. Select the sheet, then clear contents of the range A2 to B11, and that's what that macro does. So let's return to here and click clear data. Okay, all the data is cleared, and then create random data again. Okay, and as the data actually automatically overrides what's in here, we can just keep clicking create random data here, and you'll see the randomizer keeps just overwriting the data and all of the worksheets here. So you can probably think of many cases you could use this sort of looping method. The good thing about it is you don't need to know the number of sheets. So if I create a new sheet, so let's say sheet 4, and then I'm just going to copy the headers from sheet 3, and then I'm going to see whether this macro still works, whether it's dynamic enough. So if we go into sheet 4, yes, it's actually adapted to there being an extra sheet. So this is the power of looping through the object itself rather than you typing in a number, because it will adapt automatically to the increased number of objects. So when we've said for each sheet in active workbook.sheets, that means right now. So if you've added 10 more worksheets, it will do the same on those extra worksheets. And same if you expanded the range here as well. So if we said, okay, let's do A2 to A21 and B2 to B21. Let's see if it's dynamic enough to adapt to this as well. So let's click the macro, and it has. It's adapted across all of the workbooks and saved us perhaps a lot of time of actually maybe handcrafting some of this data ourselves. So that's the power of looping through objects. Try these loops out for yourself.